Hello. It seems that we're recording.
You know it. I think you're right.
Yeah.
It's just your natural intuitive quality, kind of boom, bursting forth immediately. Immediately,
I'm a professional.
you are.
Uh,
And
Hi
the world
everybody.
is jealous
Wel
of you.
welcome to Daggercast. We're here somehow. I am Lindsay, one of your hosts. I currently have a skin infection that is viral but not contagious, luckily for my family.
So this
Um,
won't be a Cronenberg style podcast.
right, I would. Well,
Get cold.
if I just like opened up my shirt, it would. I just am like I'm a living rash. I'm literally like I'm
You're
like
a
a
testament to Marilyn Chambers.
I'm a rash that thought it was a human. It's literally how I feel. Like I'm literally below me right now. I'm just itching
I
constantly.
think that can describe the whole Republican Party. A rash,
Really?
a rash that thought they were human,
Yes. Like yeah,
right?
like a flesh eating one, like a
Yes,
necrosis,
yes,
like
yes.
one that's like making the skin
An
all black and
insidious
gross.
flesh-eating one.
Heh. Well, anyway, it's Brian Kirst too. I hope you're well. I hope you're
I am
healthy.
well.
Good.
I am very well
Good.
because we have the antithesis of the Republican Party as our guest
Yay.
tonight. When I think back on my life and the amazing people such as yourself and Jared that I've had the pleasure to meet, I think our guest tonight is
Aw.
one of them. But I just am honored and can't believe that such a person is in my life. He's so cool. Our guest tonight is Scott Free. We're not going to let him come on yet because I want to do a little intro, but
Okay.
he is one of the biggest LGBTQIA activists here in Illinois.
Hell
He's a
yes.
member of the Chicago Gay and Lesbian Hall of Fame. He has been doing music for decades, starting with the house scene, all across the board. For many moons, he's been hosting an event called Homolatte here in Chicago, highlighting queer voices, and he has always been an advocate for the queer artists of getting them respect and visibility. And he is also the composer of two kind of horror-based musicals here in Chicago, Witches Among Us and Zombie Bathhouse, which the two of us worked on together. And his latest single is homage to femininity and women's bodies. It's called oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget the title, but I
Well,
was
he'll
gonna.
tell us.
He will tell us. It's a video and a single that's out now about women's autonomy and with a country vibe, which proves just how vast his musical resources are.
Oh
So
hell yeah.
yeah, without further ado, Mr. Scott Free, can you come on and join us, my friend?
I am joining you right now.
There he
Yay!
is.
Like magic.
I have only one wonderful Scott Free story. I don't know if you remember this. I think it was 2016, 2017.
Oh, I probably
You
do, yeah.
Yeah, you asked the Cell Phones, my band, to play Center on Halstead on
Yes.
like a weekday or something. And I remember being like, no one is coming. I really hope no one is. Or I wasn't like, I hope no one's coming. I was like, I really hope people show up, but I don't know. I literally was like, because it's like connected to the Whole Foods. So I was like, at least I'm gonna get a cool ass dinner. And so I like went and I like sat in the Center on Halstead and was like, man, this place rules. This is super cool. And I was eating rice pudding. And then we did this show and you were like, here, we have a wireless mic if you're into that. And I was like, oh hell yes. So I took the wireless mic and I literally like ran around the stage, sat on the couch, like there was a couch in the audience, and I just literally sang a whole song from the couch.
Yes.
And the dudes were just like, whatever, we're cool with it. And the dude who was doing the sound was like doing weird stuff with my voice. He was like doing weird stuff to the sound.
Oh,
And then he was like, oh my God, you guys rule. And I was like, thank you. Like, it was so cute. But it was like one of the greatest nights. That's what I loved about being in a band in Chicago. You could have a show on a Tuesday night and still you would meet cool people, make cool friends. And that was you for sure. So
you
yeah.
know, I hate that one. I can't remember names, but we had some special sound person come in for you guys.
Yeah, he was cool. He was really
And
like obviously like, wanting to do like really good, like he wanted to do like production and stuff, and he seemed awesome. I think his name was Adam.
Oh,
Adam.
okay, Adam, yes. And that what blew me away, and I'm not a great sound space person, but for some reason I know what you guys do with your separate amps and it's
Sure.
off timed and I just sat in the room and I was so blown away. I was like, oh my God. I mean, I was a little worried that Center at Halston was gonna freak at the volume, but it was just unreal. The sound was amazing. It was
Yeah.
what a show. That was a great show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Anytime then we're also Facebook friends, so you really get into a lot of stuff, and it's really cool to just like still be still be knowing you.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
so
Yeah.
let's let the rest of the world get to know you, Mr. Scott, if they don't
Yeah.
already. How did the music thing begin? I know you were huge in the house scene, which is Frankie Knuckles and such a black kind of environment. So what was how did you get involved with that?
Um, so I was living in New York and I was trying to make it music and kind of getting nowhere. And this was 1985. And so uh, basically, mostly what was happening in New York was the R&B dance scene, and Frankie Crocker was the DJ at, I'm forgetting, BLS maybe. And so it was all about the 12-inch singles, and so I was in a 12-inch single dance record store, and they had these cool graphics for their labels, and so they had the it was like floor to ceiling with the 12-inch singles, and you had the cool graphics and the cool graphics. And then over on the one side were these ugly red, black, white. No, they just looked ugly and they were nothing, and it said house. And I said to the clerk, I said, "What is this?" And he goes, "Oh, that's house music. That's from Chicago." And I like fell over because I grew up in Chicago where nothing ever happened. And I was like, wait, New York actually is interested in something in Chicago? What the hell? So I bought some of them. And then there were other circumstances in my life, but basically it was the right time. And I was like, I'm going back to Chicago because house music is happening. And so I got involved. And that was the other thing that I found amazing was that, like New York, the the dance clubs, like the DJ was basically on the equivalent of the fifth floor. I mean, so far up you would never meet them, and I couldn't meet anybody, and I couldn't do it. I just like nothing. And I get to um, Chicago, and I start dating a guy. He introduces me to a person who knew Frankie Knuckles, who knew Fingers Inc., who knew everybody, and like within like weeks, I'm right into the house scene, and it was, I tell people that it was even though I was a little young for Beatlemania, I kind of knew what Beatlemania was. I could feel that there was this zzz, because the Beatles were in America, they were too, and that I could feel that, and that to me, as a young adult, is what I felt like house music was because, you know, kids in their parents' basement would put together a track using a drum machine and a synth, and it would go to number one in England or number one in other countries, not here, but so it was incredible. It was just house music was the best time I ever had. It was so much fun.
And you and your sister worked together, correct?
Yes. So I put out a record with my sister on vocals, Kaisa. She went by the name Kaisa, and I didn't have any hits. I had one that like charted in the dance chart in England, but I didn't have any like super big hits. But it was really, it was an amazing time. It was, you
Well, you
know,
were not too long ago included on a compilation, correct? You and Kaisa of
right,
Chicago house music. And
correct.
what was that track so people can check it out?
Um, it was called Try Try Again, uh, and let me see if I can. I'm gonna forget so many things. Uh, it'll give me a while, but I'll get the label. But yeah, and actually, it was covered in Mojo magazine, I think, out of England, and they used our track
Nice.
for yeah. So it was really cool.
Mojo is probably one of my favorite music magazines. It's just
Yeah,
amazing,
yeah, it's great.
amazing, amazing. Were you out then? You know, what was that journey for you? Were you out in the house scene, or did that come later? Or
Well, we definitely were. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the music, wasn't. The music was just about, get your dance groove on, and so there wasn't, lyrically, there was nothing that was happening. But certainly, it it was an out scene, and there were really two house music scenes. There was the straight scene and there was the gay scene. So the straight scene was uh, like Mixon Oliver and Farley, Jackmaster Funk, and Silk, Steve Silk Hurley, and that whole crowd. And then our side of the world, the gay side, was Frankie Knuckles and Fingers Inc. And so yeah, there was two separate camps. And the other thing that was really interesting for me is that at that time, there were like 4 or 5 African American gay bars, either downtown or north side. None of them exist anymore. And and they just played nonstop house music, you know. And so that's where you went. And, you'd go to Halsted Street and you'd hear these horrible remix versions of the pop songs. And you're like, get me out of here. I need house music. so, we went over to Club Luray around the corner. And it was definitely like, 95% of 99% of the time, I was the only white person in all those clubs. The segregation was astounding back then. And they
I
would
mean,
tell
still is, but
yeah,
yeah.
they would tell me about the carding, the three that, any African American on Halsted Street would a lot of times get, they need 3 IDs to be let in, that kind of stuff. Not all the clubs, but it certainly happened a lot.
why? I have never heard of that. Why was that?
There was just,
I mean, obviously it's a racism thing. Like it was a racist thing, but
yeah,
How do you
yeah,
even have 3 forms of ID?
yeah,
right.
yeah. I'm just never. I'm just astounded because I've never heard that.
Like the
Oh,
DMV, when they're like, you need this, a address, like a bill addressed to your house. Like, that's crazy.
yeah.
That's crazy. 3 IDs means you're not gonna
It, the
cause
gay
trouble.
community
That's
in
just
Chicago
insane.
is pretty racist. It really was.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what's so weird is like in terms of the music, musically racist because like there is no way I can remember a time it didn't matter what gay club that you were in, they did not and white or Halsted Street or they did not play a house record. They didn't dare play a house record because that was like, oh, that music, it was there was a real negative connotation to house music on Halsted Street or any other gay bar. That
That is
was
crazy.
I know it's now you listen to the stuff and you can't believe that it would get that kind of reaction. But at the time, I mean, like the cool Wicker Park places were playing it,
Hmm.
but yeah,
It's
Wow.
well, I had a boss, and this was many moons later, probably about 20 years ago, who was a lesbian, and I think she reflected that kind of racism and that kind of time in Chicago because I remember there were certain music she'd like you to play, but if I was alone, I would throw on something, and I think it was. Is it Heather Headley? She was in she was a Broadway actress who was in one of the big Broadway shows, but she released a pop record, and I had that on, and this woman got very upset because she thought it sounded too black, and
right.
Alicia Keys had just won an award, and she was and gorgeous, and once again, Kate was a lesbian, and she commented on how urban Alicia Keys sounded, that she
Right.
sounded so, but she would have been kind of from that era that you're talking about of the 3ID era in the gay community, so it's odd. I always thought that was so strange for like a dyke. I mean, she was a bull dyke, who you would think would be really, really just aware of discrimination and being treated differently, and you would think would have an open mind about every culture, and she didn't. Like I was really kind of shocked and horrified that you know.
Yeah, it was weird because, like, again, musically, when you think of the 60s and 70s, the top 40 was all about mixing of all kinds of things. I mean,
Mm.
it had, Philly soul, and I mean, everything was in the top 40. And so it's so strange that they're really, and again, it's kind of Reagan era, it really did go backwards in some ways musically. Because, for House to be so rejected was, again, it's like, and it was recognized internationally and ignored by the US. Well, that's because it was too black.
Yeah,
Like
that's
rap
totally
was.
it.
Rap was too black for so many years. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's like, yeah, it's crazy to think about. It's crazy to think, that we, even the marginalized can marginalize. And
Yeah.
that's something we can't forget, I guess. But it is amazing how, and I mean, house music is amazing. My best friend is gay and he loves house music, and I'm very like, I'm happy that it's still here. I'm happy that the I don't know, the Halstead bars in the 80s didn't win. It's it's all over the damn
Yeah.
place, like,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it stood the test of time. There's so much like that Chicago black culture has done for music and for us, for this country at large, and
Oh
I
my God.
don't think we the second I started getting into footwork dancing, when I was like watching YouTube videos of them doing like footwork, and I was like, how are they doing that? Like, how are their legs moving so quickly? I want to know. I want to know how to SpongeBob. How do you do it? I like used to try. Me and Ryan used to like try it in the street when we were drunk. It's
And,
too fast.
and it, House wasn't a really, and again, coming from a white background, it was really difficult because it was a different aesthetic.
Hmm.
And from rock, like it's about the different chords you put together to make it sound really interesting. And whereas house, it was like you had to write something that got people to run to the dance floor. That was fucking hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hard. And like I said, I don't think I succeeded too much, but I gave it a shot. Like,
Yeah.
What was the transition into more of the, when I met you, you had just started Homolatte and you did Queer as Folk for years at the Old Town folk music. What was the transition into folk and rock and LGBTQIA identified folk and rock from the house scene?
so I had, you know, it, I definitely was of the mentality that I was going to make it in music, no matter, doing whatever. So I was living in New York and rap had started happening. So I was like, I'm going to do a rap song. And I did one. And, but my friend who I got to direct, who actually used to be a cameraman for John Waters on the early films, he, he just had a connection into the building where BET was. So my video got into rotation on BET, and that was before the Beastie Boys. So,
What?
Nope.
You saying you predate the Beastie Boys?
And the thing is, it's,
Well, the rest of us just want to date the Beastie Boys. So look at that.
Dude, I knew Beastie Boys songs when I was 3. This is awesome.
Now, was the rap thing after House, Scott, or before?
That was before House.
Before House, okay.
So that was 84.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, BET wasn't that big. And also, cable wasn't that big. So I had to go to a friend's house in Manhattan to see it. And I was just told it was going to air at this certain time. So we were all excited and we watched the video and it was done. And then I left and, and I didn't know it actually was on regular rotation. So I didn't know that, I just thought they played it once. I found out years later.
Can I find this on YouTube?
Oh, yeah. It's embarrassing. It's called Beat the Rap.
Yes.
Is it under Scott Free?
Yeah.
Beat
Oh,
the Rap.
hell
Okay,
yes.
folks.
So
Beat the Rap. I think we're
I
going to
cannot wait.
The
have
video's
links
good.
on
You know,
YouTube. For this
John's
stuff.
video's great. It's just I don't know, but
I mean, hey, like, I don't know if you obviously, yeah, already like I am just the amount of balls you have to say I was gonna make it in music, like I already am with you.
yes.
Like I think if you, I don't know, if you don't make a song that embarrasses you, are you even making music?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
honestly my that's
yeah.
my that's how I feel.
Right. No, good point.
And if I don't put my foot in my mouth once a day and embarrass myself, it feels like I'm not living. So, you've got one, bad rap song, you're way ahead of the game. Way ahead of the
Well,
game.
the thing
I'm
is,
fucking up
I
every
will
day.
I will qualify it and say that rap, like most genres, when they start, they're not that good. So it's very Run DMC. It's very and it's just not, but no, I mean, it's fine. But anyway, I went all the way back just to say that I was kind of like, again, I just felt I I knew that part of making it was to be in on what was the latest.
Yeah.
So then, right after house music, queer punk happened, and I was like, "Oh my god, okay, I gotta do this." And I had a punk background. I mean, I did. I when I first heard about punk when it was just starting, I just knew that was my thing. I knew, like, mentally, I wasn't, but I was very young, and the Sex Pistols were coming to America, and I had to go see them. And I knew that the only way I could go is to have my mother take me, and that wasn't going to happen. So, and then the tour fell apart in Texas. They didn't even make it to Chicago. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, and then he died shortly after that. So in
Oh.
America, I think he died, right? Didn't Sid Vicious die in America?
Oh
I,
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
was
think
in
so.
America.
Maybe your mom killed him so she didn't have to take you to the show.
exactly. Thank you. Mystery solved.
There you go.
Oh wow.
But anyway, so like punk was my, mentally my thing. It just, the whole, question authority was this big phrase that I just, so I question everything. I've questioned everything my whole life. So punk, and the cell phones. Oh my God, the cell phones are like, oh,
Huh?
this is punk.
What?
Absolutely,
I'm
absolutely,
honored.
Totally, totally.
totally. So so yeah, when that hit, I was like, okay, it just got started. I was like, I have to. So I worked, and it was at a point where it's like, oh God, there's no way I can actually write an entire album. That just seemed unbelievable, but I kind of struggled, and I got it done, and I mean, it did really well. It got a lot of publicity, and
Just call me Mr. Free.
that was called Getting Off.
Getting off. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, getting off scot free.
yeah.
That's right.
Whoa.
Yep. Yeah. Call me Mr. Free was later. That's right. Yeah.
And so yeah, that was my intro into the queer music world, and so as I was telling you earlier, that I was a little kind of concerned about being on this because I didn't feel like I had much, in terms of core to offer, and I also have a bad memory because then I started researching and I'm, oh my God, that's right. I wrote a theme song for a gay, like, slasher film.
Yeah.
So I know it's like, right. And then I looked at the year, it was 2002. So it's called
Yeah.
Dead Guys.
Yeah.
And it was directed by Alex Dove and then produced by Todd Russell. And Alex Dove is actually Alex Pucci. Am I saying that right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm the wrong person to ask.
Oh.
I generally mispronounce at least one thing
Okay.
in an episode. I feel.
Who has done a number of films. And the other producer was Todd Russell. And he was the person I was in contact with. And they were really interesting. I'm pretty sure at least Todd was straight, but they wanted to kind of break into a new genre, and so they wanted to do a and it was difficult, and Gene and I, my husband Gene, we were talking about that tonight, remembering that I was kind of scared because the premise was basically a gay snuff film. And I was like, oh God, what if this is like real? I was like, I didn't know who this person was. And like, but the thing that they wanted was they wanted the soundtrack to be queer punk. So somehow they found me, or no, I think they found me through Robert Urban, out of New York. And so they asked me to write the theme song for the movie. So and so I did that, and it was a straight to video thing. I never noticed it anywhere after I had done it. And now just looking, doing my little internet research, I'm finding it, and it's like, oh wow, this is so great. So yeah, that was 2002. It was obviously a film that was trying to do both. It was trying to be fetish porn, so the choking scenes are really long. And so you're like, okay, this has to be for jacking off. There's just no, it's just not,
Like the speed is jacking off pace. Because there's, I think,
so,
there's a pace.
Yeah, it's so interesting that because that's a huge thing. There was a magazine called Draculina for many years, which was Hugh Gallagher, I think was the publisher's name, but definitely marketed toward the straight gays, and not the straight GAYS, but the straight GAZE. There would be all these ads in the back for like choking videos for women drowning in quicksand, like so like I would have never thought there would be a gay equivalent to that, but obviously learning something new every episode. But yeah, no, it's just so weird to me because it's kind of marketed in that horror cult exploitation genre, but obviously, like you said, it's kind of jack off material. But many of the actresses I've known, I think Brink Stevens, who's a fairly well-known B-movie actress, and by no means casting any kind of finger pointing at them, it's a job that they're working, what have you, but yeah, just like videos of how home invasion, strangulation, and totally, like I still have some in the magazines, and there was this whole back section in the back where guys would just order, movies watching women getting pretended to be, smothered to death with pink panties. It was so weird.
Yeah.
It's weird when you want something that specific.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not weird. I'm not here to kink shame, but
like I said, I didn't want to do that either. So
like, how do you get that specific?
Yeah.
Like, I guess I wonder, like, from point A to point B,
very
how
specific.
do you?
Yeah.
I would like to watch a woman drown in quicksand.
No, seriously.
No. How'd you get there? I just want to know. I guess I wish we had a whole podcast dedicated to that. I want to know how you got there.
Yeah.
Also, I found on Amazon, is this it? Dead Guys Never Looked So Good.
Bingo. Yep.
Can I read this description?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. This is fun. I feel like I've watched the whole movie. Strangled, stabbed, and naked bodies are turning up all over the gay neighborhood. Slake, his name is Slake, Slake, a hunky shaved head and controlling film producer, convinces his adorable lover, Caleb, to join him in his twisted plans to meet, seduce, and strangle innocent guys who cross their path. The psychotic couple works their way through erotic dancers, college students, a pizza boy, and a corporate lawyer. And then they meet Cody, a young cutie who works in the local coffee shop. It's not long before Cody has sacrificed his own boyfriend and joined in the murderous game himself. Whoa, a third we all can love. Using his innocent eyes and southern charm, he quickly worms his way into Slake and Caleb's nest of evil. And of course, there's a cop, Jared Stone, a handsome young detective, prepared to do whatever it takes to stop the murders. His mock pursuit of Cody at the coffee shop leads him right into the heart of the madness, the lover/killer's apartment. That's it. That's the whole thing.
That's it.
Slake.
Why not tell us the end of the movie? They told us
Yeah.
everything else.
Knows literally everything.
Yeah.
It's like rope for the modern age.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have a second child, but if I did, his name would have been Slake.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a good one.
It's like Slater and Blake together. Slake.
it's so interesting too, like that. There's got to be something for everyone, but I think we're still so sensitive about how, you know, the queer community is portrayed on film, and to actually make a film where, you know, it's a bunch of gay dudes going around killing other gay dudes, it just you know, when that's so not the case. I mean, yeah, there's lovers quarrels and all that kind of weird, you know, meeting online and eating each other to death crazy shit, but for the most part, it's the bigoted straight community who are going around and you know, stabbing us in the streets and stuff like that. Not ourselves. So
yeah, I would love to see more like we've talked very much about like just like a slasher film that had a gay character in the middle, and it wasn't that they were gay, that was, you know, like, oh no, he was made gay by his mother or something, you know, like stupid, but like that he was just gay and he also is a murderer. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I just feel like, again, it's like we still stereotype so hard in movies still to this day. Yeah. And obviously, like, you know, there's that whole thing about like how gay culture pretty much steals from like black and trans black culture. We see a lot of that, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. I think there's a way to do it, and I think we're almost there. Like, I think we're getting to a point where, like, I mean, they put gay people in Star Wars. Remember that one stupid scene where it was like a woman runs to another woman and they're like, oh, they were together. That much.
Yeah, yes. Alien Covenant was kind of the same thing.
Oh yeah, where it was like two gay guys are
very
here.
Very subtle. Like much more evident for Alien Covenant in the promotional material and in the book, the novelization of it. Mm-hmm. You can kind of tell in the film, but I just watched something for this book I'm working on queer themes and horror, which just got a publisher, and I shouldn't say just got a publisher, no, but it's everything's due. Sean Abley's the editor, Gay the Dead from Fangoria, and yeah, we need to put everything has to be to the publisher by the 15th. Wow! So it'll be out this year. But I just watched a movie called Proxy, and there's a couple lesbian, bisexual characters in it, and who are crazy and fucked up and do horrible things. But everyone in the film, and I think that's where what has to happen first is that the tone of the film, you know, they have to match that tone. Like if everyone in the film is fucked up and crazy, you know, the fact that the gay characters are also fucked up and crazy kind of, you know, they fit into the milieu and the tone of the film. Because I was not I actually really like this film. It was kind of this crazy Hitchcockian slow burn, and everyone was twisted and crazy, and that's just it. Everyone was twisted and crazy, and the straight blonde heroine was probably the craziest of them all. So it kind of worked. It kind of worked because you know, that was just the tone that was set up by the writers and the directors. So.
I agree. Like, I don't know. It's not necessarily making everyone unhinged. It almost numbs you kind of to it. If everyone's acting a certain way, then you know you're in for some kind of specific ride.
Yep.
Like to bring it to a more commercial thing, I've been watching on HBO Max. They have Peacemaker, which is basically like a Suicide Squad spinoff.
Yeah.
And it's James Gunn who did, you know, he did a lot of trauma stuff. He did Guardians of the Galaxy. He obviously is a twisted mind, and you can tell, but the whole show is just he sets a tone for everyone. Everyone's reactions, though they are based in reality and they're based in real people, like doing things that are motivated the way a normal person would be. Everyone is a little weird in a funny way, where you're like in this obviously like life or death situation, but we're still cracking jokes. Like I like when people are able to like make a whole movie be that kind of vibe. And I think a lot of horror movies do that. think that's why I love the movie Voyage of the Rock Aliens. It's not a horror, but everyone is like at a heightened, no one really is a high school person. Like no one looks like they're in high school, but they're all pretending like they're in high school, and it's wild. I love it. It's like a weird ass, but they
Yeah,
all like
yeah.
everyone's in on it, you know? And I just think we could make like, I don't know. I feel like the next queer horror film is we're on the cusp, man. We need to we can just write it.
Yeah.
Let's just write it.
Well, you know,
And
how
Scott
can
Free
you
will
not
do the soundtrack.
There you go.
like a movie that pairs Pia Zadora and Ruth Gordon? You know, that's Voyage of the Rock Aliens.
I love Pia Zadora with all of my heart.
Yeah.
I found out this is a crazy story and kind of not related, but I'm sorry. So you know the Golden Globes they were not televised this year. Me and my mom watch award shows all the time. We love the Golden Globes, but apparently the Hollywood Foreign Press is super biased and super racist. Not super, like they just don't have, they don't represent diversity very well. But I heard that Pia Zadora was in a movie that hadn't even been released yet. And her daddy took out the Hollywood Foreign Press on some like fancy trip. And then she won the Golden Globe for this movie that hadn't been released yet. And apparently the reviewers came out and they were like, this sucks. Like they literally hated it.
It was actually her daddy in the sense of her much older billionaire husband.
Oh shit, really?
So it was her daddy,
but it was her daddy.
Like,
Right.
no, that was Butterfly, I think was the film. But like, how can the Lonely Lady? I mean, she's got Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
She sure does. I know. She's like a Jessica Harper. Like she's just been in the best movies somehow. She got in all the good movies.
Yeah.
But I thought that was just a funny side story. That's the story that everyone cites when they're like, dude, this was a long time coming for the Golden Globes. They did that Pia Zadora thing and we never forgot. And I'm like, oh shit, I had no idea. It's wild.
He is the downfall. Speaking of chameleon-like careers, aka Pia, so you did the queer rock thing, and I think, like you said, you're always just trying to keep going, Scott. So you've done some horror-themed musicals here in Chicago, which I think are on streaming. First was Witches Among Us, and then the show that we worked on together, Zombie Bathhouse. How did that all? Was that just, as you said, a way to keep going and changing and
I wanted to kind of explore the genre of musicals, and I was asking around different people who might be interested in writing a script, and I talked to Rick Carlin, and we were talking about maybe trying to redo Bell Book and Candle, and he had contacted some lawyers. And right at the time, Alicia Keys was contracted to do a remake of the film, not a musical version, with Disney. So that was nixed. Now that film never happened. But so anyway, we had written it, and I had done a staged reading at the Center on Halstead, and one of the chorus members that I had, a friend of mine, Anthony Whitaker, sang in it. And he loved the music so much that he wanted to produce it for his own theater company, New American Folk Theater. So, so we did that. Yeah, so we did that. And, we had to change things so it was no longer Bell Book and Candle.
It was definitely that Bell Book and Candle, Bewitched. It was kind of I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the musical, and I know I think the soundtrack's still available streaming, correct?
It is. Yes.
Yeah. There's some, which I think also shows your kind of versatility. You've got Her Body, Her Choice, is the latest single, which I couldn't remember the name of. Thank you for texting me, Jared.
Oh, and while we're remembering things, it was Sunset Records. That was the house label.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Record on. So.
Cool. And then a few years after that, you contacted, or I think when that was still going on, it took us forever. Well, it took me forever. I'll take the blame. To come up with you had thought of of a title, Zombie Bathhouse, and because of the horror connections, we started working on that, and it took
Right, right. Because you
7
had
or 8
read
years.
Homolatte, I'm sure. That's probably how we met, right? Was Homolatte? I want to.
Yeah, I think someone recommended me because I've been doing a lot of theater and poetry performance and stuff like that. So someone must have recommended me to you,
Okay.
and that's how we, yeah, that's how we kind of met.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, it was a musical because of I came up with the title. It's like
title,
I did
yeah,
a musical around that. So, and yeah, I mean, I thought the direction it went was fantastic, and it was just a joy to produce it. I produced it myself, and we did it at the Center on Halsted.
yeah.
And yeah, what I just remember the last night I was gonna make a big speech, and I started crying.
Aw.
I was like, oh my God, I am such a whip. But it was fabulous. It was, and I was amazed, it was great that we could pull it off in that really big space. We didn't use microphones
Yep.
because I just know that, at our level, microphones can be a nightmare. And we did it. We
Yeah,
pulled it
yeah,
off. And it got really good reviews. And oh yeah,
yeah.
it
It's
was,
fun. It's fun, and I think we uh eventually it was never a at least an initial goal, but I think because of your strong sense of activism and mine as well, that we created, you know, for those who didn't see it, which is probably everyone listening, or most everyone listening.
Me
Um,
included.
yeah. We the zombies in the bathhouse died. Were activists in the late '60s, early '70s, and they died in this raid. Because there was a huge, I think in all cities, but in Chicago for many years, they would go into the bars and into the bathhouses and drag you out and arrest you and do all these horrible things for you. Um, you know, much even past Stonewall. I think if I'm not incorrect,
oh, sure.
Stonewall didn't end
Without
that
a
at all.
doubt.
That was going on until the '70s. I think when things finally changed some. So
I I was living in New York. A black gay bar on the Upper West Side, well, 50s on the West Side was raided,
yeah,
and that was like 1982.
yeah,
So yeah, no,
yeah,
it still absolutely happened. But right, I mean, part of the research for the musical, I had no idea how much LGBT activism was going on, like pre-Stonewall. I mean, there was a
yeah,
lot. There was a big fight against. So in a bar, you couldn't dance with a same gender person, and you couldn't wear the clothes of an opposite gender, however they define that. But
yeah.
um, and so there were big protests around that. That was a huge deal. So we did reference that in the musical, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, it
Did
was
a little thing on conversion therapy, and
right.
yeah, it was just I think anyone out there who's produced stuff on a budget, we had I think we ran into every single problem, like people dropping out. I had to rewrite the show. Like I think
Yeah,
like 2 or 3 weeks before we opened, I was rewriting the show.
and you came onto
Oh,
this.
wow.
You became an actor
I
for it.
had to, yes. Somehow it worked out. There was this crazy kind of ghost mad scientist character who I named after Sergio Martino, one of my favorite Italian film directors, and uh, um, so I wound up, yeah, we had musical. You have a slightly bigger cast. And we cast
Right.
people like some we knew. So the director, who was amazing, Dan Foss, rest in peace, Dan, who died who was sick with just diabetes and all that, and died shortly after the show closed. But he
Oh.
added a lot of people he had worked with and really kind of built up the professionalism of the piece. Um, uh, yeah, it was, but one of the guys we just didn't know, and he's still, from what I understand, I with my schedule and plus wanting to give the actors and the director room to breathe, didn't want to be there all the time, because I'd worked as a director with playwrights who, like, anytime you changed a word would be like, oh, you changed that word. So I was like, I wanted to be a presence but also let them do what they wanted to do.
Right.
And I guess this actor was still messing up the night before our final dress, and he called off the night of the final dress, and the which traditionally has audience members. We just didn't happen to do that because the space that we were working in, the Center on Halstead, we had so little time in there. We just didn't want to have audience members for that final dress. But I wound up having to take over the role. So, and it was great. It was totally unexpected.
Perfect. It was
totally unexpected, you know, and it was one of those cases where he was kind of like, I wanted him to be almost like a Duggar, like Josh Duggar, because he was a pervert, but like this kind of handsome, respectable guy who you would not think, just smooth and calculating, and the actor who had been playing that part previously was kind of doing really doofy, like, you know, the lab coat would be all messed up and his belt would be unbuckled, and it's a totally different attitude to the part. And I was like, well, you know, at first I grumbled a bit, but ultimately I was like, fuck, well, here's a chance for me to kind of play it how it was written
to fix that. I'm gonna fix that.
I had a great time being part of the cast and being back in dressing rooms, and overall it was just a really, really fabulous experience. And there's videos online.
Yes. I put together both just clips and then montage. I've got some montage stuff too.
Ooh.
So, I definitely was kind of away from it also, but my only stipulation was the song "Man Meat" could not be cut. That was my only rule.
It could be uncut, right? It could be uncut. It just can't be cut.
It could be
uncut. Not cut.
It can be uncut, man. Oh, you win.
It's a great song.
Brian always wins.
I think the music, you mentioned the reviews. I think the music was the thing that got, I think, the best reviews, and deservedly so. There's just so many different styles, and we have a protest song in there, and which was based on one of the numbers that Scott performs in real life, that I loved and convinced him to work in. And, you know, so there's a lot of different, you know, ballads, and so definitely, you know,
but definitely coming from the punk side of the world.
Yep.
You know, if there are ballads, I definitely tried to make it fairly punk. And
Yep. Well, we called it a rock musical, deservedly so. So, so who knows? Maybe one day.
Yeah. You know, once this COVID thing is past us.
Yeah.
Right. You could just rewrite it for COVID, make everybody zombies.
It is. God. Well, are you having, Scott? Like I haven't until just this next wave, when Omicron kind of, I might be saying that incorrectly. Omicron. That might be my one word of the night that I'm saying wrong. But I know a lot of people said that they were having flashbacks to that period of time, when HIV and AIDS first was raging, and I didn't necessarily, like, I got what they were talking about, but it's just been like this next wave where it feels like it's going on forever, and that I've kind of been like, wow, this feels like, you know, those early days when I was afraid to do anything. I was afraid to have sex. I was afraid to, you know, because you didn't want to catch, you know, get HIV, or, you know, and you know, it's just such a, it's been this last few months where it's like, God, I feel like I'm back in the early 90s again, where everything just feels dangerous, and you go out and you live your life. But, you know, have you felt that with?
You know, I guess maybe I had a different reaction. Maybe it's my angry political head. But, you know, I guess I got really angry about, and obviously anything that is positive for our world is wonderful. And it was wonderful that they came up with vaccines that were so effective so fast, and it was, you know, just great. And then I thought about how, you know, there hasn't been a vaccine for HIV in 30 years, and you know, and it's like, well, why isn't? Maybe it's because gay men and hemophiliacs died, and this time it was like rich people.
I'm sure. I'm sure that's got to be.
I mean, AIDS didn't crash the economy. COVID did.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yep. I'm sure. I am sure. And what a, you know.
It's also kind of funny that, you know, Dr. Fauci's the kind of the face we're seeing on this, we didn't know who the hell that dude was before all this, and now it's like, you
Oh,
know,
it goes way further than that. He is. That's what's so. Again, I got a lot of enemies for this, but I was anti-Fauci from day one because he. I mean, there's some horrendous video out there of him talking. He was kind of in charge of some government department. I don't think it was the same one at the time. And he actually made a, they filmed him saying, well, it's possible that you could get AIDS from casual contact. Now, we don't know that for sure, but I mean, and that sent bus drivers wearing gloves and people getting kicked out of hospitals and all kinds of shit. I mean, it was a nightmare. And
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like before anybody were like, who the hell is Dr. Fauci? He was like, oh, he was the guy who's, he was tasked with trying to get an AIDS, with trying to get an HIV vaccine. And
he also stopped fast track. ACT UP was trying really hard to push for fast track, which meant it has a different definition now, but at the time it meant that they would be willing to give out the experimental drug at the same time they're doing the study. And he was against that. He was like, oh, but that's unfair to the people getting that. So you're gonna let people die just because it doesn't fit into your.
Yeah.
It's weird. I've not, like, I love new wave and female vocalists and dance music, but the disco thing never quite registered with me.
Okay.
Just like the cowbells and the repeating stuff. But it's funny, like in this last few months, I've just really felt connected to that. As I mentioned, that time period when AIDS first hit, and I feel like I'm kind of at that loop again. And I just imagine that in the mid to late 70s, that was my people's, the gay people's music was disco. And I can just see these young, beautiful men out on the floor, so close to having freedom and their rights, and listening to this music and just being ecstatic and feel like we were marching forward. It's 10 or so years after Stonewall. And then what happens? AIDS hits and they're demonized and
and all the people in power just literally
blamed again and just eradicated, and things like ACT UP had to start, and just I was like, how, I guess I've just never felt that before, like how tragic that was, that they must have, just a little bit I know about gay history is that we must have been so close,
Oh my God.
like 2 or 3 decades ago, to being where we are now, and to have it just utterly obliterated because of AIDS is just, and have to start all over again. It's just so heartbreaking to me, and I've really been listening to a lot of disco lately because it just like that must have felt like such the music of freedom to them, and then 2 or 3 years later, boom,
Totally.
My second album, I have a song called Leather Ghosts, and it's done in disco style, and it tells the story of when I first moved to New York, and I was really afraid. I was scared, to go to a gay bar, and somebody told me about and I'm going to get all the names wrong. It was a play on the word, so maybe it was Alex in Wonderland. I think maybe that's what it was. And it was a downstairs club, and I went down there and, scared out of my mind, and I walk in, and all these leather guys are in there. I didn't know it was going to be a leather bar. It was total leather. Everybody in leather. And this is, 80, probably 1980. And they're hanging out. They're just, and then the DJ puts on Gloria by Laura Branigan. And the place goes nuts. And they all run to the dance floor, and they're like, Gloria, Gloria. And I thought, oh my God, I'm home. Oh my God. And then, and this song is about how, 10 years later, all those people are dead.
Yeah.
All gone. All of them. Wiped out.
Yeah.
Also, like, what's really weird, that song plays with when the St. Louis Blues win. I don't know. They do it. I don't know. Every time I'm just like, why is this playing? I'm confused.
Because someone got their number.
Hockey's a weird weird sport, I guess. I don't know. Good Lord.
So flash forward, like Leather Ghosts, obviously has those political connotations we've been talking about with you. But this latest video, Her Body, Her Choice. Let's talk about that before we have to wrap this stuff up.
Yeah. So I'm always like coming up with these concepts, and so my latest now, I think I was really, really affected by a book called The Uninhabitable Earth. And it's mostly about the cyclical effects of climate change and how it gets into a loop. Like the trees all burning means that there's not, it makes the earth hotter and there's no protection, which means there's more trees burning. And it's that kind, and he's got all these different kind of loops where, and I came to the realization that, I've studied, there's a great podcast called Revolutions, which goes through all the major revolutions in history. And there's a long history of oppression of poor people, right? That's the history of the world. And it's going to continue, and we can certainly do our best to fight, and that we need to. But that's but climate change is different, because climate change will kill everyone. And so that's where I feel like for a while I felt like, oh God, I can't do any other kind of music. I just feel like political stuff is the only stuff I can do. Now that's not going to be the case, but so I got into a political realm. The last album I did, The Last Revolution, is all social justice stuff. And then I kind of realized that, and this came out of Chicago, was that they're not really good at the protests for music. There's a little bit like Thaddeus Tukes has his Freedom Ensemble, and there's a group called the Sousaphones Against Hate, and they'll go to protests, and they're really great. But it just, unfortunately, it's not really a big part of Chicago. So what I just decided I was going to do was just make songs that could be played at protests. So Her Body, Her Choices doesn't even have verses. It's just a chant set to a little music. And I played it actually at the December 1 protest for abortion rights. And so that's the concept. So I'm doing a whole album of just kind of things that you could play at a protest.
Nice.
So, yeah, because there isn't a lot, it's weird. It's like, the person who's known for it most is Pete Seeger. And folk was really about finding old songs and bringing them back, and it was a really cool genre. Like I heard this interview with Tom Paxton. He was one of the guys that came out of the Village folk scene in the early '60s, and he said you would even have an original song and you would tell people it was from like the 1800s, and because it was cooler.
It's cooler to have like a song you redid. That's so silly.
So the thing is, in my opinion, I feel like there's a lot of things that aren't done in a sing-along style that really address our issues of today.
Well, yeah, even I would say the whole Trump thing did it for me. I was very upset at the fact that a bunch of women voted for him. And literally because like they believed truly that like women couldn't possibly be a president. And I lost my mind when I heard that, and I wrote a song like this. We did a cell phone song called 53%, obviously. And I remember saying to myself, like, is this what I want to do? Do I really want to do like protest stuff? Like I'm literally protesting with this. I don't know. But it felt so good. And whenever I sang that song in public and on a stage, I felt so good. And even though now I still kind of like, if I were to do it on stage, I still feel like I'd be like rehashing it, but I'm like, no, I still believe this. And I think the last handful of years, I don't know, if you're not like angrily screaming a song of some kind, like you might want to try, because made me feel better, and yeah, I think it's important. So thank you for making a whole album of this. I cannot wait to listen to it.
Thank
So,
you. And yeah, I think that's part of it. The music is, well, I say music is the most industry influenced art form, in my opinion, in a negative way. And I do feel like I felt the same thing as you do. It's like, oh God, I'm going to do my social justice stuff, and people are going to be like, oh, please, And, but I felt like, if the attitudes could change around it, it could maybe one day be cool again.
yeah.
Like it was
Absolutely.
one year in 1962.
And people be like, "Oh, please give me more," not like, "Please."
Yeah.
So
Well, and also, I mean, that's what this podcast is primarily about, like how the industry, how horror industry kind of thought it was for a specific kind of people, and really it's for everyone.
No,
So I think you're right. Like music is kind of that way
free
too.
for all.
Yeah.
I wanted to actually, in doing my little research, because again, like I said, I have a terrible memory about Dead Guys. I found Alex Dove was interviewed for Filmmaker magazine in 2003 about why he did this gay slasher film. And this was his quote, because I listened to your podcast from last week. So here's what he said. Try to name an 80s horror film where girls aren't featured in a throwaway topless scene.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
And it's like, so he got it.
Yeah.
And so, right, it's very, very important.
More dick in my horror movies.
Yes. Snap, snap,
Give me
snap.
more dick.
We're snap,
Cut,
snapping.
uncut.
Mr. Scott, uncut. So check out Your Body, Your Choice. You can find it. Just Google Scott Free, Your Body, Your Choice. I know Zombie Bathhouse still has a Facebook page. There's also zombiebathhouse.net if you want to kind of go back and check that stuff out, and all the videos are online as well. Is there anything else that we should be looking at, Scott, or they should
Watch Beat the Rap, because I'm about to.
Oh my God.
Can't wait.
Yes.
And well, just, all my stuff is over the, hated Spotify. That's probably where you find most of it.
Yeah.
Her Body, Your Choice is at Bandcamp. Yeah, so, I just thank you guys for having me on.
Oh, thank you. I mean, what a journey. I mean, really, just across, from New York to Chicago, all the music scenes. It's been just awesome.
Yeah, I would love to pick your brain even more. I wish we had several hours for this. But thank you so much, and maybe come back.
Yes, I would love to come back. Thank you so much.